What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Wing and Tail Boys podcast, your Northeast hunting and fishing destination. I'm Chris.
And I'm Angelo.
And we're your hosts. Join us as we navigate the woods and waters of the Northeast, sharing our passion for the outdoors.
Whether it's land management, outdoor recreation, hunting, or fishing, we're going to cover it all. With 40 plus years of experience in the Northeast, we'll provide insights, tips, and stories to help you make the most of your adventures and help you experience the wild.
So, tune in, grab your gear, and let's hit the woods together. And always remember, success is just a commitment away. How are we doing, guys? Thanks for joining us here for another episode of the Wing and Tail Boys. Joining us today for the fourth episode of our Arrow Science series, we have Dorge Huang. How you doing today, Dorge?
I'm doing quite well. How are you, Chris?
I'm doing great. It's I don't know about over by you, but it has been freaking cold here in PA. It is
Well, it's not that cold. 2 days ago, it's a lot colder. Today I was ready to go hunt, except I forgot I got podcast, so I didn't go. Today it's actually quite comfortable, 30 degrees.
Okay, it's been for us. It's been drastically dropping with like the next 2 or 3 days. Like the high is 17 degrees and the low is like 8.
So oh wow, you guys got some cold ones.
Yeah, we
went through that 2 days ago. Now we're up. Today's at 30 right now, so it's quite comfortable.
Yeah, you sent your wins to us. That's what happened.
Right now, based on my meter, is telling me a 2 miles per hour wind, which is perfect. A tiny of a sprinkle. That's it. Feel like 12 with the wind chill. I'm good.
Okay, what's the weather looking like tomorrow for you? You said you have a hunt tomorrow.
It's going to be dropping 2 degrees more, so probably I will go hunting.
Okay, awesome.
And then I'm going on Thursday is ATA.
Oh, that's right. The ATA show is coming through.
Yeah, Thursday to Saturday. I'm not going to be exhibitor this year. I'm going to be attendees. I'm going to do a lot of consulting and doing a lot of negotiation because a lot of my customers going to be there. So we're going to meeting over meetings.
Okay, so are you gonna have like your own tent set up? Can people come by and say hello?
I'm not doing ATA for 2 years now.
Okay.
Because the ATA, in my personal opinion, is no longer. See, in the old days, people would pay money to go ATA to sell to people.
Right.
I would say around 2015, ATA become a place that I pay money to go there, except people come to my booth asking me to buy advertising.
Really?
So, and dealers, most dealers don't go to ATA. Guess what? They send their friends to go to ATA to get free stuff.
Okay. I've heard that before.
So you're not really talking to dealers. I mean, a few of the dealers showed up, but most dealers will come and see me. I can talk to them on the phone. Why do I need to go to ATA?
Right. What about have you heard of the Great American Outdoor Show?
Oh yes, I'm always doing that show.
Okay. Do you come to the one in Pennsylvania?
Yes, I do that show since 2008.
Okay. Awesome.
I'm the archery section. I mean, I'm always I'm one of the old guys in archery section forever.
All right. So
I don't sell a lot in there. I mean, most of them I go there to educate customers, show them stuff they haven't seen. You will have everything of mine there. So actually, I enjoy the Pennsylvania show. A lot of my dealers, actually, I'm going to have 2 dealer classes in the Pennsylvania show. Dealer who want to become a certified and trained dealer go to that show to attend the class, and then after that, that will be a verbal exam and then a practical exam. If they pass all of them, they become a dealer, a certified and trained dealer.
Gotcha. And then, that's cool. I was going to go into some specific. We can cover that another day. What I think is really cool is being able, because I've now had I've had the fortune of trying and using quite a few of your products over the last couple of years, from arrows to your arrows, your bump stop to a couple other things, the titanium kit. And what I found is that I didn't really truly understand it until I had it in my hands and I was able to manipulate it, physically feel the difference in weight, see what it actually does. So if nothing else, if you guys, listeners, if you're going to be at that show, I believe it's February 1st, right? That the weekend of February 1st. If you're at that show, head on over to the Fire Knock tent, go on over, say hello, and check out some of those products that we've been talking about here on our Arrow series. I'm in a little bit of a tough, sticky situation because February 1st is actually the day of my wife's baby shower. So, so either I'm going to have to prioritize and not go at all.
That's 2 weekends. It's not 1 weekend, it's 2 weekends.
Really?
Yes, it's 2 weeks. It's actually it's total of 9 days. It's from Saturday to next Sunday.
So the following Saturday, it's the 1st and the 8th.
Yes, the first from the 1st to the 10th, not to the 9th.
Okay.
Yeah, you may not know that, but that's how it
Well,
goes.
I know it now.
Yeah,
'Cause,
because it's 10 days, you know. Most people come to my booth actually on weekdays. Tuesday and
okay,
Wednesday is my best day because there's not so much people. And those are the time actually I have the best time because I was really able to explain to customers who really want to learn.
sure. You have the time to sit with everyone and talk. See, that's
Hmm.
awesome. All these years we've been going to the outdoor show, and my dad always made it like I never cared to look it up because my dad and my brother always shared the dates with me, and I just assumed that it was one weekend. I didn't realize
No,
that it
it's
was
week
the
to
full.
weekend. As a matter of fact, the Great American Outdoor Show is February 1st to February 9th. Exactly
Okay,
what you think.
awesome. So maybe I'll talk to them. Maybe
And
I can
to be
convince
fair
them to
with you,
go
I
to.
told people you really want to enjoy the show, come to me on Super Bowl.
Oh well, because everyone's home watching the game.
Exactly.
All right, all right. Well then, I should definitely be able to make it down then at least one of these days. So hopefully we can link up and we can hang out in person and have a little chat, and I think that'd be cool.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So the topic for today's discussion is going to pick up where we left off in the last episode of our series. The last episode we talked about kind of the history and the progression of arrows, right? Where did they
Correct.
start with bamboo arrows way back when?
From way
All the
back
way.
in ancient times, the beginning of arrows, bamboo cedars, and then we move all the way. And then we sort of stopped at ACCs or the Full
Yes.
Metal Jacket.
Yep.
And I have not go into detail of those. I think from that become a springboard for the next. The ACC, I personally think, is one of the best arrow ever made, and still is better than most
Okay. And
because
that's
it starts with the aluminum in the inside,
okay.
and the carbon is wrapped over a very, very stable and straight and defined material.
Okay. And you're saying the aluminum is the straight and defined material
Yes, with
that
the
creates
carbon
the.
wrapping on top. So you
Okay.
got a base solid foundation.
Sure, like a nice skeleton for the rest of the arrow, essentially.
Yes.
Okay.
And then I personally think the worst arrow that for which for hunting is the Full Metal Jacket, which is just the reverse.
So, okay. So, and the full metal jacket would be CCA,
No,
carbon.
Full Metal, you'll be well, if you want to from the inside out, yes, it's CCA. The aluminum on the outside. The reason that I personally do not like the arrow is that the aluminum take dominance. That means when you pull the arrow, if you kink it, that kinkness is that bend of the arrow is going to be part of the arrow permanently,
Okay. And that's because the aluminum's on the outside.
which is dominant.
Okay. And
It's the
whatever.
largest one in diameter.
Okay. So whatever material is on the outside that's what the properties of that material are what going to
Because it's
dominate
the
the arrow.
largest in diameter.
True. Okay. Okay.
And
No,
not to mention, if you use aluminium arrow, all the problem aluminum exists. Like you can't glue anything correctly because all aluminum are anodized and sealed. So there is no more pores for the glue to grab.
right.
So you either use Comic or whatever to sand the aluminum to break up it so that you can glue. Otherwise, you're not going to glue on it. I mean, yeah, you can glue on it, but you fall off.
Right. They fall off eventually, which makes for a nice refletching job at least.
Right, but you fall off too often. That's the problem.
Yeah.
Even when you practice or shoot your target, you pop and then they jump off. And
Yeah.
not to mention, in the old days, you can use double-side tape, which work better, but then you can't really rely on it. Double-side tape is pretty decent because you sleep the moment you clean the shop with acetone, the double-side tape will cook quite well
It takes right
because it's
away.
still using the analyzing the ion bonding ability of a double-side tape, like the
Okay.
BHP. That's
Right.
from 3M.
I never actually knew double-sided tape was used for veins. I've never heard of that
Yeah,
before.
all the if you look at all the feathers, they're all double-side tape.
Okay. See, I used to use gateway feathers, but I
Right,
still
then you can use the bonding platinum plus type glue. But then again, those require bonding surface.
yes,
You do not have any on aluminum.
right. Which me personally, I've never shot aluminum arrows. By the time I started shooting compound bow, which is the only bow I've ever shot, really, we were already using carbon. Like I said, I think it was in the last episode. I was shooting Beemans when I first
Yep,
started. When I first
you'll
started
be
hunting.
Beeman hunters or Beeman sports, that kind of deal.
Yep.
Now stop you right there and talk about carbon. Carbon.
Now,
You know, carbon.
before we move on to full carbon, we talked about ACC, which is aluminum in the middle, a layer of carbon, and then a second layer of carbon on the
or
outside,
more, or
or
multiple
more.
more. In the
Okay.
case of like the ACC Pro 100s, the carbon core is a thing. The ACC Pro 100, they come with something as small as 450 all the way to 300, but to 290. That is simply how many layers of carbon you put on it to give you a number.
Okay. Now, so we have the ACC, which is aluminum in the middle, carbon on the outside, and then we have the CCA, which is the carbon in the middle, aluminum on the outside.
Two
Is
carbon and the aluminum on the outside.
right? Is there a type? Has anyone ever made an arrow where it's carbon, aluminum, carbon, so a CAC?
I don't see the benefit.
Okay.
Because see, the only reason your aluminum is inside is that you actually make the core, so you wrap the carbon over it.
Okay.
The other one you said you can put the carbon, extrude the carbon inside the aluminum. What is what the full metal jacket is? The full metal jacket is technically an extruded aluminum with carbon, extrude with aluminum shell, and then carbon go into it and then pull out.
Gotcha.
So if you do say a CAC, then the process will become too expensive. I don't see the benefit, and the reason why.
Okay. No reason.
Because you can't control your ID that consistently, and the OD is really no point. Unless you want to build something like the full metal jacket and then you wrap on a bit of carbon over it to take away the memory. Yeah, I see the possibility, but the cost is going to be so much more because most of those arrows come out of Eastern, which is it's a one piece, it's a one step process. It comes out in one shot continuously.
Okay, and then what? They just cut it down to size or whatever.
Correct.
Gotcha.
Just like when you're this recent, I think if you really want a 204, I think I personally think the Eastern Axis one of the best arrow out there for the price.
Right. I shot the Eastern Axis, but I was shooting the 4mm for a while, which are the 166s.
No, that's called the injection. It's not the Axis. The 40mm is considered the injection series. The Axis series start with the 4mm and 5mm and 5mm only, which is a 204. The whole process of making the Axis, from my understanding, is like 28 different carbon fiber and other material. Is they control and weave them together in just like a fabric process, and they use the baking, the heating, the whole 9 yards. One shot, and then it comes out. Then they cut them to whatever length.
So you mean to tell me that a carbon arrow isn't just carbon?
Well, this is where everybody make a mistake. Just like when you buy a fishing rod, say carbon. What's the difference between, say, a $40 carbon arrow, a carbon rod, a carbon fishing rod, and say, one of the more expensive one, carbon, like from Japan, one of the mega bass rods.
To be honest with you,
Tamagotchi rods. They're carbon.
Someone who doesn't really have any background information would probably just say the brand name. What's the difference between the rods or the brand name? Right.
First of all, two things dictate how good a carbon fiber is. One is modulus. That means what kind of carbon fiber it is. That, like in the fishing world, it's the IM5, IM4, IM6, IM7, IM8. And some people will now call it a modulus. Your 24 million module, your 32, your 38, then all the way to 84 million module. But then you're talking the grade of the carbon, which is your V4000, 5000, all the way to 12,000. Just so you know, you can't buy anything over 9,000 without going through hell.
Why is that?
Because my understanding is that to the point that back in the early 2010, the Japanese and Koreans are told not to sell the Chinese anything over 800, because those are used for airplanes, like your Boeing, your Airbus, your Boeing, your Comac 919, your fighter jets.
Okay.
Those airplanes are all carbon fiber.
They need the lightweight, they need the structure, and they need the strength. Right, and they need it when they need it.
And other things that people don't understand, the real carbon fiber are sold by the yard.
Yes.
Not by the pound.
Because are you talking like square yards, sheets of square yards?
On sheets.
Okay.
And then the higher the quality, the thinner it gets.
Yeah.
That means that if you want, just think that'd be ridiculous. You want an arrow with 1 millimeter thick. Just for reference, okay?
Mm-hmm.
The thickness of arrow 1 millimeter. The highest quality fiber will be the 1K one. I mean, we're not talking weave yet. We're just talking carbon fiber, because weave is a whole different animal on top of it.
Yeah, oh, yeah, we're gonna get there.
Right. I mean, that's the reason I want to step into multiple stages so you understand it's not that simple.
Right.
We're talking of carbon fiber. As you got the carbon fiber itself to be thinner, that means the materials are more straight, more compact, and the resin grain to be greater, and they're more lightweight. They're stronger, but use a lot more
Right.
because they're thinner.
Okay.
And they are sold by the yard. So assuming that you've got a, say, carbon fiber that's 0.2 millimeter, and you got one, so you need 5 layers.
Right.
And if you got a carbon fiber that's 0.5 millimeter, you need 2.
Sure.
So, of course, the one every 5 layer is going to use 2.5 times more material than the 2 layers.
Yeah.
Now the killer.
Yeah.
Anytime it step down in size, you double in price.
Yeah. Yeah. I've actually I've had the disfortune of experiencing that. You and I have talked about some things that I'm looking to maybe build products of some sort, and I've been kind of scouring the internet trying to find somewhere to get the material. And the better the material, I mean, and the price jump is like it's not even it's bigger than you would think. Like just going from one quality of carbon fiber to the next, I'm going from like $30 for 20 inches to like $170 for 20 inches. It's like it's
Right.
not
We are
even
talking using one factor, which is carbon fiber material.
right.
We are not talking, remember, when the arrow is finished, there's carbon fiber material. That's design approach. That's combination of material.
Yeah, and that I think I mean we're touching on it a little bit, but I think that's the structure of the arrows that we want to touch on
Correct.
at the end of the episode here.
Correct. That's the reason
Okay.
that, so people don't understand just because you say, oh, I need a 5 millimeter arrow. How many people make 5 millimeter arrow? At this moment, I can count with 10 fingers.
Really?
And they are not all the same.
Okay.
And anybody, I mean, I make 3 of them already.
Right.
The one I make for Exodus is called NIS. That's
Mhm.
nothing more than a half extruded and then with a carbon it's like a 2 layers of carbon with extruded on the outside.
Okay.
I mean, it's not the greatest arrow out there, but it meets the price point.
Sure. And what
It's
is
just like
which is
pretty much same as the Deer Crossing 204. The lightest, of course, right now in the market, supposedly, I think the Eastern New 204 is going to pretty much match the Black Eagle original Rampage.
okay. You mean light as in GPI?
GPI.
Okay. What
I mean, you can make things. I mean, just like the Arrow Weave 204 Light. That's really did everything, but you still maintain the structural integrity.
okay.
See, this is where the problem with carbon material. It is not a homogeneous material. When you mix and match the material, and on top of the material, it's not the material alone, because the carbon fiber is sheets.
Right.
Okay, then you can buy different grades. Then you can buy different thickness.
Great.
Then you can buy
thickness,
different resin embedding. Then you can buy different curing rate, different baking rate. I mean,
and the list goes
there's
on
no
and
end
on.
to it.
Right. So let's
That's-
take a let's put a pause on that because I think we're getting ahead of ourselves just a little bit. Let's backtrack here for a minute and let's talk about the history of carbon fiber. Now, I
Yes,
don't know. Do you want to talk about the history of carbon fiber as a material or
that's a
the
material
history?
using fishing and hunting.
Okay.
Because
Okay.
otherwise, there's no end to it. So
Right.
I will limit it to the carbon fiber. See, people may not understand. Carbon fiber, the step before carbon fiber is fiberglass.
Okay.
And fiberglass is actually a very good material. That
Right.
is the reason today we still use that a lot in like your bow fishing arrow and also in your planks in your bow,
Okay.
because its ability to store and relax energy is very good.
Gotcha.
And carbon fiber will do much better. The top problem is that carbon fiber, until I would say about 2022, it is not a good material for bow planks, but it
What
is now.
when you say bow planks, what are you
The
referring to? I've never heard
limbs,
the limbs. Okay. Gotcha.
we call
Okay.
it the planks.
So then they've been using them for the last 15 years without really understanding them, or have they been
No, they never did. I mean, the only
fiberglass
people
up
that
until
use
now?
use carbon fiber inside the limbs are Hoyt.
Okay. And
Hoyt
what?
only use it in 2 layers, if I'm understanding, or the rest is fiberglass.
Gotcha. Okay. All right.
Now, remember
Now
how
I'm with you.
expensive is a Hoyt of HT1000 limbs? You pay $600 for a set of limbs.
Yeah. That reminds me. That reminds me of my Benelli. I have a Benelli shotgun, and I wanted to go. I wanted to get a rifled barrel for it. The rifled barrel on it cost like $700. I was like,
That's
I could literally go buy 2 rifles.
well, the same thing. Remember the titanium red carbon barrels?
No, I've never heard of that.
Oh, they are. You're going to pay $2,000 for it.
That's insane.
But you know what? You don't shoot 10 shots with it.
No,
Carbon
no,
fibers are not meant for multiple shots.
right. Okay, okay. So carbon fiber, as it relates to hunting and fishing, 2022. You said is when they kind of came. They finally got it to a point where they could use it.
I
And
personally believe that they find that we have reached a point. The price with the performance ratio, we can finally use carbon fiber planks on
okay.
bows.
And is there anyone doing that right now? Other, like you said, Hoyt, but is there anybody else?
Hoyt did it for a long time, but it's not pure carbon fiber.
Not pure carbon fiber.
But
Is
at the
anyone
same time, the design is finally reached the point it can be used.
okay?
Just like you don't use an old design of an arrow and use carbon fiber as a replacement and expect better performance. You need to understand how the material going to behave and optimize the material for the performance you want to do.
Right. Like we
That's
talked
where the
about.
most people screwed up.
Like we talked about in the last episode, depending on your setup, an aluminum arrow might be the better arrow for you to use,
Absolutely, and
or a
that's where
300, or a 204, or a carbon fiber, whatever the case is.
yeah, I mean, just like you're very simple on carbon fiber arrow. Most people would love to shoot the thin full metal jacket if you shoot a recurve, but that sucked in high level compound bow. And I
Okay,
will go into that later when we go into bow design and so on. But
gotcha.
one of this episode. But in as far as carbon fiber is concerned, you need to understand just before somebody claims it's 99.8% graphite, it's just telling you the material. It didn't tell you the approach.
Right. It's similar to steel, right? When you go and buy a tool that's made out of steel, I mean, there's hundreds of different grades of steel, aren't there?
And
that
then the process, I mean, just like the identical steel. If you went to say cryogenic and or heat treat or an oil dip, it's the same material, but the treatment to it changed. Now
right,
the result is totally different story.
right. That's
And
actually the Benelli barrel's cryo dipped. It's like frozen to like negative whatever degrees Celsius or some
for
nonsense.
about 2 or 3 days, so that they force the vibration of the molecule so that it bond better. I mean, there's similarly same thing with carbon fiber. An extruded carbon fiber process, like what Beeman did, is one of the best arrow for performance, but
Okay.
sucked in safety.
Gotcha. That's right, because they shattered. They splintered when they break.
When you hit it, it splintered catastrophically to the point that you hurt yourself and it may not be recoverable.
Yeah. Like I told you back in the day, my brother and I, we went to a 3D shoot with our dad, and he was shooting at one of like the novelty shots. You know, they had these gophers that would go up and then drop down, and he went to go take a shot, and we just heard a big pop, and he looked down, his hand's bleeding, and luckily it was just one thin, long shard that went into his hand, like right between his thumb and his pointer, you know. But ever since then, I always every few shots, I'm always checking my arrows to see if there's a crack in them and stuff. But the carbon of today, they don't splinter like that anymore.
No, let's put it back. The approach of the step manufacturing approach is not used by most.
Okay,
It can be used as long as you use the right way to prevent it.
gotcha. Which would
Just
be
like, for example, like you do a circular wrap over it, or you
okay.
do a weave carbon over the extrusion. So
Gotcha.
if anything happened, the carbon will force it to break evenly. So the
Okay.
splinter will be very short.
Okay. I got you. I'm with you now.
But then you also think about it, like when gold tip and vapor, when gold tip pop vapor, I'm looking the 4-layer, the 5-layer vapor. The process actually, Eastern and Beeman go extrusion. In other words, they go with the way we actually treat metal when they build carbon. Extrusion process, straighteners, and so on, cut in size. But gold tip is the first one who used the fishing rod golf club approach. You got a mandrel, you wrap the carbon, multiple layer of carbon over it. And then, of course, instead of laying them straight, you lay them the carbon fiber, say like 5 degrees to the left, and then next level 5 degrees to the right, next one 15 degrees to the right, and 15 to the left, and then finally another 15 degrees, like a 5-layer one.
Sure.
So theoretically, the first layer will cancel the second layer, the third layer will compensate the second layer, and so on and so on.
Right.
So when you break at the even point. So you will not spur, because the first layer will sort of like prevent the second layer from spurring, because they are opposite angle of the carbon fiber.
All right, that makes sense.
So you can go minimum 3 layer as much as 5, okay? And then that is based on, say, 0.15 millimeter material. Of course, you can go lower. That approach works very well, because that's what WTB did. And so is the rest of the world's aero company. Because the process is relatively simple. It's the same process they use in golf club, they use a fishing rod. And because it's strict, so you just tape the different pieces you want, you start it, then you tape it to the mandrel, you put on the press, and you push. Voila! You got a tube on the mandrel. Then you throw it into oven, or in some cases, better stuff, you wrap the whole thing in a super tight wrap to maintain the structure. Then you throw it into oven. Then you went through a grinder, you grind the outside out. And then in the case of WTB and most other company, you throw the whole thing into a cryogenic chamber to shrink the inner tube. So the mandrel will shrink, and then the arrow comes right off. Gotcha. And most people can't wait. They will grab a hydraulic press and grab the mandrel and then pull it right off. Now, this is where a lot of problem.
Sounds aggressive.
Now you got a lot of problem with that approach.
Yeah.
Which is why when you look at a lot of company, especially like Element, some of the Victory, you notice that you have to physically cut both ends.
You're saying when you're building an arrow, you want to cut a little bit off of each end?
Right, because see, when you hold the arrow and you pull, some resin is not totally settled. When you pull, you compress it. Now the hole becomes bigger. On the other end, since you're pulling it in, the hole becomes smaller.
Smaller. So one side will shrink a little bit, and the other side will expand a little bit.
While the middle is the same size, but the case of the WTB and fine arc approach, because I learned it from Marvin, I actually cryogenically shrink my tube. It will take time.
Okay.
Because most people don't want to take, because every mandrel you use, you have to went through the whole process before you go back to production.
Right.
So if you say, imagine you're making 1,000 arrow an hour, and you have 4 steps, you need 4,000.
Yeah. Wow. Now let me.
Of course, if you're a Carbon Express, you don't have 4,000. You have 40,000.
Right. I mean, that's they have plenty. Now in a situation where somebody needs to cut off both ends, is there like a general rule of thumb, like cut 3 millimeters off each end, or
no? This is the best thing. I think Tim Gillingham did a very good demo. You put the arrow on a spinner and you spin it. One side wobble more, the other wobble less. You cut more on one side and less on one side.
Okay.
Or not cut. But of course, you need to measure the OD and ID to make sure they're indeed good.
Right.
See, that's the reason people don't understand. The better the material, the less the work you need to do.
Sure.
It's all part of the build. It is not, I mean, remember, we're talking, this is build. This is not about carbon arrow manufacturing process. Can you make it better? Yes. I mean, in some cases, like when I first started, I make my arrow 35. Then
35 inches?
Yes, and then cut 1.5 inches on both sides.
Okay.
So I got a cleaner 32.
Right.
And then in some cases, people will make use mandrel approach. They end up the arrow only come in 30, because if they build in 32, they want to cut 1 inch off. You end up with 30.
Right. Okay, and
Eastman can make you a 200 feet arrow with no problem.
I was gonna say, because that's really unfortunate for people who have a longer draw length, a 31, 32, 33 inch draw length guys. Sometimes those 30-inch arrows are like a little hairy on the length. When I draw my bow back and I can see the tip of the broadhead behind my fingers, I'm not always crazy about that. I like it for it to be just a little out front. Personally.
Now let's go back to material.
Yes.
Now we talk about carbon fiber. We're talking different grades.
Is there anything else that we want to touch on with the history of carbon fiber before we move on?
I'm actually going into the history of carbon fiber.
Okay.
Because see, the different grade remember, just because I'm saying that IM6, I'm just telling you the carbon fiber in it is IM or something like 32 million module. So what happened to the rest of the material? It is not, no material is 100% carbon.
Okay.
You got resin, right?
Sure.
But just because I use 100% carbon do not mean I can have fiberglass in it.
Right.
I can have mix it with boron.
Okay. And each of those things would change
The behavior,
everything about the arrow. Now,
the behavior of that too.
Now, when we say behavior, are we going back to the stuff we talked about in the first episode? The five
The
motions
individual
of the
motion
arrow.
of the
Okay.
arrow, exactly.
Okay.
So that will impact the motion. They will focus on one or the other. Just like when you look into a multi-layer straight carbon fiber, you are guaranteed a helix or compound helix shaft
Okay. Why is that?
because every single layer is bigger than the layer underneath it.
Right.
And how do you guarantee the lower one, the upper one will cancel the lower one? You can't. So in other words, the first one and the second one you end up with, the moment one thick is thicker than the other or more powerful than the other, you force the arrow to poke based on the thicker one.
Okay.
But when you have 3 or 4 of them, where's the torque side? You have no idea. Because one's supposed to cancel the other, cancel. But
right.
whatever the leftover is, and the leftover plus leftover plus leftover.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you really got?
A lot of I don't know.
Exactly. Because originally that's what happened until I found out, wait a minute, the same as fishing rod. We cannot manufacture, engineer a spine generally. And I got mad with that because I think, wait a minute, this engineer, why can't you do it exactly? I'm going to make this stuff. No, you're going to do exactly what I tell you to. No, you don't.
No. Plans don't always, and I'm sure it frustrates you just as much as it does me. But
I found it because I filed 2 U.S. patents in 2008 and 2009 on arrow weave. Yeah, right, 2007, 2008 on the arrow weave.
Okay.
So I actually construct the spine.
Okay. What do you mean? How do you do that? Or do we not want to give away trade secrets?
No, I mean it's a patent. There's nothing to give away. You can read that.
Okay.
What happened is that I'm doing. This is where I want to put that a little bit behind and talk about the next material. You can see how the straight line, the linear carbon fiber with different direction would do. You end up with torsion and torque in the shaft.
Okay.
But you take away a lot of problems. You take away the unknown. You give the arrow more safety. You give the arrow a batch consistency because as you make them all, the arrow usually behave the same as on the grain weight is about the same.
Okay.
Because the material used the same. But see, this is the downside. See, if you use a high resin material and you squeeze it and bake it, do you know what's left in it and how they bond together?
Mm-mm.
See, that's where the problem is. That's the reason most arrow, when you see, I got but the one of 300 spine. What's acceptable? What does that mean?
What, 300 spine? Isn't it? Can't they be like? Isn't there a range? Like if it's rated at 300, it might be like 290. It could be 310.
Usually plus or minus 15%.
15. Okay.
So you think about it: 300 plus or minus 15%.
I mean that's
the number is pretty big.
That's a 30 pine rating swing. It becomes a 30-point swing.
No, 15% of 300 is 450%.
I got you. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. No, that's so you're not really getting a 300 spine when you buy a 300 spine. Then.
Yes, that's also the tightness of manufacturing process. That's the reason people say, "Oh, I got a Beeman 300. It's so much better than the Eastern 300, and the Gold Tip 300 is better." Remember, the spine number you got in most of the cases is static, not dynamic.
Right. Okay.
How the carbon fiber lay and how the resin react with the carbon fiber cause the laziness or activeness of the carbon fiber. That means when you lay a weight of 300 on it, well, a weight of 1.94 pounds, it dropped 300.
Mm-hmm.
That's static.
Okay.
So when you dynamically load it and unload it, the reaction time of the carbon fiber construction become more important, isn't it?
Oh, for sure. The more energy that it's
No,
being
the energy is the same. It's the accept and react the time.
okay.
This is another thing. Based on carbon fiber construction, just like fishing rod. You told them it's a 30-pound rod. The tip speed is based on what the modulus and the construction of the fishing rod is. So you got a high modulation will give you higher performance. That means the thing is going to react faster and come back faster and recover faster.
Okay.
Although it's the same poundage, just like a 300 spine fiberglass arrow and a 300 spine, say, homogeneous carbon fiber. We're talking the same as speed. The carbon arrow 90% will going to perform better because it's going to accept that, absorb, and translate the energy into the fight faster and recover faster,
Right.
so that it doesn't lose so much energy in the process of flex and also time.
I got you. Which then makes sense as to why they use the better carbon fiber in the more expensive stuff.
Right. But at the same time, just because the material is more expensive, see, I learned this stuff when back in the 1977 when I bought the first carbon fiber Kevlar fishing rod from Taiwan. One drop is done.
What if you drop the rod?
Correct. I put the rod on the rail and the wind blow, the fishing rod go on the floor. Then I got the next fish hooked up.
But
Yep.
It didn't.
That's the end of the rod.
It didn't even break on the fall. It broke your heart when you went to go set the hook. That's terrible.
Exactly. It's like, oh my God, what just happened? Then that's the time. I think, God, I saved the whole summer for this fishing rod. We were talking McDonald every freaking day for working McDonald for the 2 months and finally got this. And the first thing go out, I would really enjoy how good it throws, casts, beautiful setup. Then I lean it on the rail and then the wind blow a pad. Oh, no big deal.
Oh. That's like one of those things you look at yourself and you're like, I can't take this back, but that was so dumb.
No, I did take it back because that's where I learned. Because I was one of the more aggressive fishermen in Hong Kong, and know most of the people, including the guys from Daiwa. I remember that time Pokey was their Hong Kong, what do you call it? The wholesaler for them. They are they are the rep for Daiwa in Hong Kong. And they happen to be there. I mean, back then my English is not as good, so I tried to my best. My Japanese worse. So I talked with engineer the next time and we discuss it, and they're kind enough to send me a new one and tell me what not to do.
Gotcha.
But then I learned
this one.
they don't drop carbon fiber with Kevlar because the Kevlar and carbon don't bond well. When you do sideways shot, you separate the layers.
Okay.
The same thing with carbon fiber in today in some place like that is, remember the carbon force from PSE? They also have carbon fiber multiple layers with the wrap on it.
Okay.
Those are resin based. Those are resin based. In other words, they are. If you put acetone on it, you literally can peel layer after layers.
Really?
All the newer arrows are epoxy systems. So the moment you set is permanent.
PSC used to make arrows?
Yeah, carbon force.
I didn't know that.
A lot of people don't recognize a lot of things.
Okay.
The carbon force is a brand that PSC use. It licenses a lot of arrows. I mean, PSC's VAT is licensed from, of course, from Victory. PSC's I forgot about the Hunter series is actually a rebadged gold tip.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Actually, cool I remember when the first time when PSC rep showed me the arrow, I look at the inside and I say, "Hey, that's a mandrel. It's very close to gold tip." The guy looked at me. It is indeed a rebadged gold tip.
You got an eye for this stuff, man. That's when you got it, you got it. You know,
understand what you're looking for, and you know when each individual process is not that difficult anymore.
Okay, and this is
just like. Mm-hmm.
Like if you were to walk into a store, right, and let's say you woke up tomorrow, you didn't remember all of the knowledge that you had. Let's say, is this what you would recommend people to do? Like when they're buying arrows, take it out, look through the middle, see how they're built. Like, is it
First
the
of all,
equivalent?
you don't know what you're looking for. That's the first problem.
Right. Is it the equivalent of like going for a test drive on a vehicle and saying like, okay, I like this, I don't like this, I like this. You know, like
You need to be a good driver first in order to do what a test drive is.
okay,
Because if
that's
you
fair,
drive your Honda, say, for the last 10 years, and you go into, say, a Porsche, you're not going to like it
right?
because the buttons are on the wrong place.
Yeah, I
It's like
learned.
the first time I drop my shop, I go into the car, I look around, then I notice my key is down here next to my emergency brakes.
Really?
Yes, the sub key is right next to my emergency brakes.
Oh, the sob key. I got you. Okay.
And then, of course, my Porsche key, my Cayenne is my right hand, on my left hand side, the steering wheel. You
Okay.
tuck in there.
Okay. I actually have a quick side note. I think you'll appreciate this story. My wife and I, we went for our honeymoon. We went to Lake Tahoe, and
Mm-hmm.
we landed in Sacramento. We stayed in Northern California for 2 nights, and then we drove up to Lake Tahoe where we stayed the rest of the trip. Now, the one thing we wanted to do, we both love sports cars. So we were like, you know what? Screw it. Let's spend the money. We rented a beautiful Porsche.
Mm-hmm.
Never driven one before. I think it
Okay.
was like I don't even remember exactly which one it was, but it was like a sports convertible stick shift. The thing was beautiful. So my father-in-law is a mechanic, and I said, you know, Dad, I wanna bring my golf clubs. I want to go golfing in California. Oh, my golf club's gonna fit in the Porsche. He goes, yeah, no problem, no problem. We get we get there, we get to the parking lot where they parked the Porsche. It ends up being a two-seater, no back seat. The
Mm-hmm.
engine is like right up against you, and we couldn't fit the golf clubs. Couldn't even stand them up anywhere. We had to call an Uber just to come and take my golf clubs from the airport to our hotel. And then we went she came golfing with me, and we ended up doing like maybe 1 or 2 rounds, and then I had to fly them back home because I couldn't transport them up to Lake Tahoe. So, but the ride was beautiful. It took me about 2 hours to figure out where all the buttons were, like you said. You know, figure out how to open the convertible and stuff. Didn't realize the air conditioner didn't really work if you're not moving. So
Mm-hmm.
when we were stuck, we were stuck in traffic in the mountains, all the way at the top, no cloud coverage, with the sun baking on us, and we
Yes.
couldn't, like, we were dying.
So you must have bought a 911 Tiger.
It was a I think it was a 911.
See, that's smart. I bought myself a Cayenne diesel Gen 2.
Okay,
So I got 31 and a half miles together with and I used it for hunting.
there you. Hey, listen, you got to hunt in style sometimes, right?
Yeah, you saw me. Last year, I got my first buck after I got my Porsche Cayenne Turbo diesel. I just throw the damn thing on the back of my truck. Oh, you should see when I shot the deer in. I shot a really big doe downtown Chicago, 176th Street,
Well,
right on
okay,
horse there, behind a church. And then I drove that thing all the way through Chicago and home.
that's amazing. That's amazing. And you get one of two reactions. You either get the beep and the thumbs up, or the beep and the middle finger, like go
No,
F yourself.
no. This is not what happened. I mean, I live in Chicago before I married my current wife. This is what usually happen. You see cute girl drove by, they will ask you to go down your window, and it happened to me multiple times. I'll load up my window, and then you'll heard this word, "Baby, kill us." Sorry, I got help. It happened to me too often. I was driving on a Pathfinder back then,
Oh my
and then
god,
my
that's
Sienna see. I also learned when I killed my big 197-inch deer. I was driving my Saab 93 SE Turbo. I did the car for less than a month. So I got this 197-inch deer. What am I going to do with it? So I rolled the deer into the back trunk. I know I was smart enough. I put a tag. And
sure.
then I easily go to the True Value hardware store. I got a top. I throw the top inside, and then with the DNR Eric. Eric is the helper, and Greg was the superintendent of Volleyball. So me and Eric roll the D into my trunk, and I go home very happy. Then I go home, and then I skin the deer, the whole 9 yards, and then go to a taxidermist. Actually, I went and took the deer the next day to a taxidermist. They take the head off and so on, and I took the deer home and butcher it.
Mm-hmm.
Don't ever do that to any car with a deer
No.
inside. You know why?
Because a tarp never holds all the water unless you don't want it
Nothing
to hold all
to
the
do
water.
with water.
I know, but I'm just saying it, like the blood.
No, it's nothing to do. It's clean as
Really?
clean.
Okay.
Because the top is like a bucket.
Okay. What happened?
That Christmas, I go down to Florida with my wife. The whole freaking trip, I just keep feeling something is biting me.
Oh
It's the
no.
fleas. They come out the deer and
No.
half the deer. Since the deer die, you get cold, right?
Yeah.
So the flea comes out and hug the middle section of the car because the radiator is.
Oh my God.
Then I end up have to buy 2 flea bomb on the 3 months old leather interior.
Oh my God. I guess the fleas are still better than chiggers at least. 'Cause,
At least,
man.
at least, at least.
Oh.
No. I checked. I took up down. There's no what you call it. Those things. You know the one with the big belly.
No, I'm not familiar.
The deer ticks.
Oh yeah.
No,
Okay.
ticks, just fleas.
Okay.
Because I was wondering, what the hell is this black thing? I finally killed one because I
Oh
was
my.
wearing shorts. I will
Sure.
one just. I killed one just in front of my knee. I said,
Oh
what
my
the hell is
God.
this? Then I then just do this and say, oh my God, it's a flea. Then it hit me. Beyond that down.
And of course, it has to be the deer of a lifetime. 197 incher. You're riding high. Everything is great. And then, damn it. That's
And then, of course, I did bomb the whole car with a brand new leather smell, and now he got flea bomb twice. I even bought those the one you stick on the shelf, the
okay.
shelf liner. I put
Yep.
them above my car so that when it fogged up, don't put oil on top of my car. And then I
Right.
lay paper all the way across the flea bomb the whole
Oh
car.
my God.
Yeah, tell me about it.
That
And then
sounds.
I've been driving air conditioner car in the middle of Florida with the windows down the entire trip.
You know, I'm sorry it happened to you, but I'm glad it didn't happen to me because that just sounds
But hey,
terrible.
would I not take the 197-inch deer? Hell
Right?
no.
That's fair trade, I guess. In that situation, right?
That's the reason now I always buy a plastic rack. All my cars got a hitch on the back, and then
Yeah.
I usually just like with my Saab, with my Cayenne, I put that thing above my car,
Okay.
and then when I got a deer, I take the rack out, put it on the back, and then throw a deer on the rack.
Yep. Either
With two
either that
straps.
or I have a pickup truck, so either
Oh, the pickup trucks are different. You
yeah,
can't throw anything on the back.
either that I throw it in there like you said with a tarp, or I'll still put like a wood carrier or a deer carrier on the back and transport my deer like that.
Yeah, let's go back to the comment. We
Yep.
put, and then, sorry,
Sure.
that's too funny. I want to share that portion.
Yeah, no, I mean
Now,
that was fun. I enjoyed that.
do you see the carbon fiber itself is not carbon fiber? That's where the problem is. When you add different material, remember, nobody said all layer has to be the same.
Right. Now, when they're adding different materials, are they doing it for a purpose, or is it just to save money? Why are they adding materials to the carbon fiber?
Based on the design, actually, just like in fishing, if you do crankbait, you are better off with a high fiberglass content fishing rod compared to a high carbon fishing rod.
Okay.
Because the rod is slower.
Okay.
The same thing with with fiberglass. If you want it more durable in impact, you can put more fiberglass in it.
Okay.
And also you increase the weight of the same identical shaft because fiberglass with the same strength need more material, which you got a thicker shaft, a more durable shaft with higher slug strength compared to a higher performance strength in
Okay.
weight.
So then that poses the question. I understand completely from a fishing rod standpoint because in our last episode we talked about how I'm a big fan of the St. Croix Mojo Bass, and I love how each of their rods are labeled with what their what you can maximize the performance of the rod for. So when you buy a Mojo bass rod, you look at the bottom. I'm sure you know this, but it'll say plastics or top water or crankbait, and like you're saying, the speed of the rod helps with the swimming action of whatever lure you're using.
All right, and then not to
So
mention the fishing reel itself a big impact and the fishing line. It's
right.
the same thing with when you got just like when you look at say I mean I always like to use the because Carbon Express had the more expanded line. Like when you look at the power driver of Carbon Express, that's a high fiberglass content uh, arrows. That
Okay.
precision can be like 10, 12 grain per inch.
And that's to give them a little bit more of a punch when they it's
Correct, but at
essentially
the same time, it doesn't. You give them the weight, you give
right.
them the girth, you give
Mm-hmm.
them the slowness of the carbon arrow.
Okay.
But then you look at the Blue Street Select. The weight is something like 6, 7 grain per inch compared to 12. We're talking really double the weight.
I gotcha. So based on what they're trying, so basically what we're saying is based on what they're trying to get out of the arrow. Are they trying to make a thin, light GPI arrow? Are they trying to make a thin, heavy GPI arrow, grain per inch? So based on what they as a company are trying to get out of the arrow, they're going to add or remove materials from that carbon mixture, essentially.
Not just that, you can also like what I did with when I with Exodus, I was helping them. Like with the MMT, I told them, don't touch my arrow whip; it's too expensive.
Right.
The go with my sport whip, which is where the MMT is. It's nothing more than exactly the same as gold tip for the first 3 layer, and then I put a 4th layer of weave on the outside, which is
Okay.
identical to my sport weave. But then when they want a 204 with the same GPI as the lightest out there, I told them they can't happen.
Right.
Yeah, I'm going to need at least 1.5K, 4K carbon fiber weave to do that. That thing you can sell it for $89.95 just on passions.
Yeah.
You're going
So
to
I'm
need at least $140.
so
And
I
then in
will. Oh,
case of
sorry.
like mine, you're going to
Mm-hmm.
need $219 retail.
Yeah. So I'm in a fortunate position. I have tried your arrow weave. I have tried the Exodus, both the 204s and the 246s.
Mm-hmm.
And I've tried another company's micro diameter arrow, super light GPI, and I won't say what brand or what arrow that was. I won't, I never really. I want to try my best not to knock anybody if I can.
No,
The
unless
problem
you got a testing and then you have proof to test. Otherwise,
right.
don't mention, and then you get yourself in trouble.
Yeah. So the company's arrow that I'm not going to mention, I liked the way it flew. It was very light. It was very fast, but I did not feel like it had great structural integrity. And
Mm-hmm.
to not even forget about impact on a target. My arrows were cracking when I was putting my nocks in the back. Before I even shot the arrow, the arrows were cracking.
Well,
And
actually,
I just
that
didn't like
is
that.
see, when you have ultra high modular carbon and that's what you go for, there's 2 ways to overcome it. You can also put a bushing in the back, like a finite arrow buffer, or like
Okay.
the original gold tip did that to the arrow because they don't know how to handle the loop strength. So they put a aluminum bushing over the arrow shaft on front and
Okay.
back. Another way it behave like a outsert.
Right.
And then in the case of carbon express, they call it the bulldog collar. In the case of finite, we call it the arrow buffer. We do that for the 204 in the front and the 166 for the back.
Okay.
It is very much needed because see when you're going to put 24 arrow into a single target, they're going to hit.
Yeah.
And if you don't protect your arrow, you're going to get very expensive very fast.
Yes, especially the more consistent your arrows get, the more expensive that bill is going to get.
Correct.
So and going on with what I was saying, I shot that company, and those issues that I was having with the Knox is what led me to try your arrow weave in the first place.
Mm-hmm.
There were 246s, and to this day I have not shot another arrow. I've shot 3 different arrows since then. I have not shot another arrow that is as durable as those arrows. I
Well,
mean, they fly well, they hit hard. Every arrow behaves the same way. And
You
I
know
also,
actually, that was why I'm trying to remember. I told you, with every single arrow out there, they are not engineered to do what they do. The arrow weave
the
is
arrow
a
weave is
patent engineering process,
right.
and I'll explain that very simply to you. Imagine that when you got a sheet of carbon, we already know that when we got the linear carbon rolling exactly the 0%, 0 degree direction of the carbon, you're going to end up with an arrow that's very consistent on the spine. You're going to react fast and everything, except it's stuck on catastrophic condition.
Okay, what do you
Because
mean?
all
Like,
the fiber
okay.
are linear, coming straight. If you hit one of them, it's going to crack like glass.
Right. Okay.
Then remember we talk about with gold tip, we do a angle and opposite each other so that they cancel each other, right? Then with the case of my understanding with the elements are extruded on the whole thing, and then they wrap a 1:2 ratio carbon wave on the outside to make it safer.
Right.
Then I asked myself this question: why can't I use ultra high modular carbon wave, 90 degree and 0 degree, and then align them 0 degree to the shaft, so that they are absolutely consistent in the spine direction? Because remember, weave is a cloth.
Right.
And then that is what layer 1 and layer 4 of arrow weave is. It's a 90 degree and 0 degree weave.
Okay.
The layer 2 from the inside out is a linear carbon from top bottom to top. So in other words, now of course, if you got a cloth, there's no string to it because there's no spine on it.
So we have to add a spine.
That's the reason layer 2 is what the spine of the arrow is.
Okay.
Now we control this too. Now we notice that the layer 1 and layer 4 is 0 and 90 degree. So what if the torsion happens? It's going to be horrendous. Because when you have a cloth and you twist the cloth is going to be deformed outrageously.
Yeah.
Right. That's the reason layer 3 of an arrow weave is a 45 and 135 degree cloth.
Okay. So each layer, So each layer of arrow weave has a purpose and a reason. It has a reason to be there, and it sounds like 1, 2, and 3. Correct me if I'm wrong. 1, 2, and 3 are mostly the ones that are doing what you want the arrow to do in the sense of structure and spine and everything, and then the others are either for safety or to counteract whatever the others are doing, basically.
Correct. I'm trying the number 2 is pretty much the only thing that gives you the spine, which is why arrow weave are always heavier.
Okay.
Because the layer 1, 3, and 4 are nothing more than protection layers.
Okay.
But then, as we understand, when you go into a 4K weave, it is significantly thinner.
Okay.
But then, we also need to understand carbon fiber on a weave is not a weave. Because that's 1:2 ratio weave and a 1:1 ratio weave.
Right. So that's 1, 2, 1, 2 type of deal?
No,
is that what you mean
like
by
this.
Okay.
And then the 1, 2 like this. But there's only one here.
Gotcha.
So that's pretty much your herringbone approach.
Okay.
But in most cases, if you want a truly carbon fiber, but now the problem is that if the carbon fiber itself is not so thin, you can't lay flat. When you interact, that space right here, see the hole right there?
Yes.
It's your problem.
Okay.
You can't lay something flat until you make this thing super thin. When you make it super thin, it costs a bundle.
A bundle. So let me ask you this then, because now it kind of all makes sense. And I'm not saying this to be negative. I think it's just been my experience. What I found, I shot your Fire Knock arrow weave made by Jeremy. Jeremy made those for me. Phenomenal arrows. But like you said, you pay for what you get. And those, from beginning to end with all the parts, I also opted to get the end caps and the weights, like the match grade weights, put in the back. Out the door, shipping and everything included, I spent somewhere between $450 and $500 for a full dozen arrows. And I'll be honest with you, they were worth every penny. But the following year, I said, okay, I really like the 246s. Now I want to try a 204. And that's when I found Exodus. I spoke to you. We talked about it. Great option, whatever. I got the 204s, and I ended up having some issues with those on the front of the arrow. I'm not sure if it was a build issue or whatever the deal was. But you and I talked about it, and you said, yeah, it's pretty much a product of the 204s. And if they're not built perfectly exact, simply because of the way they're designed, they could run into issues. So I went back to 246's Exodus as well. And here's what I found in my shooting. I found that the sport weave and the arrow weave shot equally consistent, but the arrow weave had a little bit more durability than the sport weave. Is that an accurate assessment?
Correct, because see, the sport weave is technically, first of all, a gold tip arrow is a very good design. I mean, I give Marvin Carlson a lot of credit. When they come up with this thing, when he first come up with it, the concept is correct. It's from a pure engineering standpoint, it's absolutely correct.
Okay.
But then I still think that the construction and reliability is not there. Because at that moment, a weaved cloth is not available. It's just not there. You can get one. And now we can get it reasonably cheap. Why not? That's the reason I would tell them my spot weave is an improved gold tip hole hunter.
So, and we want the weave, right? If I'm not mistaken, we want the weave for safety reasons.
Not safety, it's consistency.
And okay, gotcha. So
because if you just have layering, from layering, unless your machining is so perfect, batch to batch to batch, you cannot get the consistency out of it.
Okay.
That's the reason I remember the time I talked to Tim Gillingham. He was smart enough. He was very kind to tell me, "Hey, Dorge, if you want a good, we want this arrow for what? Get a batch." Because if you look at some of the older gold tip arrows, they come with a number on it. When they buy 3 or 4 dozen, they all are the same. So now you know this bundle of all behave the same. Because see, carbon fiber, that's another thing people don't understand. You build carbon fiber in the old days. In summertime, wintertime, they behave differently.
And that's because of the way that they're built?
No, because temperature, the resin behavior.
Right. Yeah. Okay.
I mean, now, of course, most of the resin are put in a freezer. When you use it, you take it out, you cut it, you build it. But remember, you still have most people, just like I got a few Canadian customers telling me, just building arrows itself. I mean, just like when I build fishing rods. If I build them in this office now, they're going to come out like shit. Sorry.
Right.
They're going to come out look bad. Because see, my temperature in my office maintained at about 58 degrees.
Okay.
If you want a good flow of resin, I'll do my basement where my wife keep that around 70.
Okay.
That 12 degree would cause resin to flow differently.
Sure.
The bonding is different. I mean, yes, we went go to driver, we roll them. Remember, when we roll, we are rolling them actively. We had to activate them, we now roll it. But how about the control of the moisture? Humidity. Now, humidity, moisture, temperature.
Mm-hmm.
I remember one time I got a bunch of a gentleman called me about the nuts breaking. Your manufacturer.
Sure.
He said, all our nuts are breaking. I said, when they're looking at that, I know your stuff. When are they mowed?
Yeah, when did you make them?
When did you make them? November. I said, I bet somebody opened the door.
Oh my God.
Because when they open the door, the curing of polycarbonate from outside in. That process caused the molecular structure, the crystallization become a lot more brittle.
Sure.
So the more we force on it, it cracks.
And this is where the chemistry of everything comes in. I literally mean the science chemistry, right?
Yes.
Because like I'll give an example of why understanding, or at least accepting the fact that minor differences like that actually matter. Right? take a bottle of soda and put it on your deck in 70 degrees. If you go to open that bottle, it's going to explode if you don't open it slowly. Now put that same bottle in your fridge and open it at 35 degrees. It's nice and calm, and you can open it as fast as you want. It's because the hotter the molecules, the faster they're moving, and the more erratic they are. Not that this is a science experiment, but again, what we're trying to tell you, we're trying to give you the information so you understand why it's important. Why do we care how something is built? Because the difference of 5 degrees can be the difference between how everything gets put together and how consistent those arrows are from arrow to arrow.
Like what happened to me? I mean, one of my really good old customer called me, he told me, Dorge, I just bought a new bow. I need 2 dozens of arrows. Can you build for me? Without even thinking, because I haven't built arrow for so long, I figured that I'll just build it for him in between my hunts. I sent an arrow there. He said, Dorge, this is the worst 2000 arrow I've ever seen.
Oh no.
The end cap glue didn't hold, the vanes fall off. Well, I didn't recognize that my humidity in my office is so low and the temperature gets so low because I always wear the Gore-Tex with a thermal Gore-Tex thin insulate jacket on me, so I really don't care. I don't really turn it,
Sure.
and it's comfortable. But then I did not turn in the heater underneath my table. I got a heater under my table to keep the surface around there 70. I did not do that.
Hmm.
So the super glue gel was crystallization too fast.
Yep.
And the acetone is not evaporating fast enough.
And I'm sure the two-part epoxy wasn't taken very well either.
No, the two-part epoxy, the diameter gets too high. So the
Right.
bonding ability,
Yeah.
like,
You
I
know,
think I should know better. Come on. I was kicking
see,
myself.
that's why I'm so happy. I've told you before, my wife and I, we just bought our house in Pennsylvania, and I was fortunate enough, or we're fortunate enough, that I have an extra room in the house, which I've been able to turn into this office, and it's where I record my stuff, but it's also where I'm going to have my bow press, my arrow building stuff, and my bullet reloading stuff in this little 10 by 11 room. Okay. But the nice thing about the 10 by 11 room is if I want to build arrows, especially arrow concept, where I need to let the stuff dry for 24 hours between each step, I can turn up the heat in this office to 70 or 75 degrees and just let it heat one room instead of having to heat the whole house to that temperature. So I being in this room, I have the ability to monitor some of those more important factors.
Right. And see, this is on one step what you have. Imagine that you're a manufacturer. And those layers, just like most of the arrows right now from Asia, they are not from Korea. I mean, the only company who still make arrows from Korea is out of G5 because they pick up what Carbon Express left off.
Okay.
Most of the other arrows are either Hong Kong or China or Vietnam. China is in Xiaoming, China, which is Xiamen, China, which is just in front of Taiwan. The other one is Vietnam, the high moisture, high content area. So that's the reason the Carbon Express arrow there and the Carbon Express arrow made in Korea, they are slightly different.
Sure. It just makes sense.
I mean, now you need to, I'm not saying that they can replicate it, but now you got the full room, your control environment.
Right.
You need to control the moisture, you need to control the temperature, and are they really that careful in it?
Well, it's just like I say when I go hunting. If I know, I'm not going to go through the whole spiel again, but if I can, the more variables that I can have under control, the less I have to worry about when the shot comes. If I know how my equipment is going to behave, when it's going to behave that way, and what to do if it doesn't, then I know that I'm the only the only thing I have to worry about when the shot comes. And to me, that's huge.
Well, actually, I want to wrap this up since we're over an hour already.
Okay.
The bottom line is that you need to know, or you have somebody who better than you to know what you're looking for.
Right.
Because material alone, remember, that's not a single material. Just because people say, oh, I make all the arrow with 4K, 1K, 4K carbon. What does that mean? I mean, Carbon Express used 1K, 4K as decoration and was a pattern in there since 2009.
For
It is a
decoration.
pattern owned by Carbon Express to show you they use a 1K, 4K weave as decoration.
So you're saying structurally, it doesn't actually do anything for it; just looks pretty.
Yes, that was the pattern to look pretty.
Okay.
Eventually, you can go to ESPD and look for Carbon Express. I think that's one of them.
Right. So I'm going to ask you a question, and because I know we want to wrap this up, like you said, we're a little over an hour here, and I already know that this answer is a little it's an in-depth question, but I'm gonna ask you if you have somebody new, let's say somebody's listening to this podcast, they're just up until now, all of their arrows have been built for them, or maybe it's their first bow and arrow ever, and they're going to the store and they want to make sure that they're buying something good, but they also want to try to save money where they can. What type of things should they look for in an arrow they want to buy, or what are certain things that they should look for to say that's a red flag, I shouldn't buy this arrow?
Let me give you a totally off-the-wall suggestion.
Okay.
Because I was given the same recommendation by the gentleman who teach me hunting.
Okay.
If you first do hunting, know your yardage. Number one, 25 yards. If you never shoot over 25 yards, you can buy any bow, any arrow, you pretty much will kill it. So as long as you practice with it, you're good to go.
Mm-hmm.
After you learn how to hunt, after you know your equipment well, the moment you extend to 35, 45 consistently, that's where arrow material, bow design, arrow configuration, individual component of configuration all become more and more important.
Okay.
Now, when you start building arrow, like quote unquote my Dragon Slayer, which is meant for 135 yards, 35 miles per hour, and go through bulletproof vest, now you're talking a whole different ballgame.
Okay. Now, to follow that up, because I want to circle back to something we spoke about. I don't remember what episode it was, but we talked about the certain yardages where certain things don't arrows don't recover within a certain length or whatever. Okay. So when you say as long as you're shooting 25 or under, any bow, any arrow
from
kills
18
something.
to 25 yards, that's your shooting range. Know your yardage.
Gotcha.
You can technically buy any bow and go to Walmart and get a dozen arrow.
Okay.
For like $3-4. You will kill deer the way it should kill deer. Because you have now, with today's technology, you can't really not kill a deer with the junkiest broadhead with that distance.
Yeah.
Because if you really go with that, your arrow speed will not be over 260 feet per second.
Right.
Aerodynamic don't matter, and you don't get a bow with 85% arrow, you get it around 70 or 80.
Right.
Under that condition, you will enjoy hunting. You will not be pulling your hair with a 85, 90% let off, 90% let off bow with a 166 with 150 grain FOC, 15% FOC. You're screwing yourself.
Yeah, and I will say this: I'm a junkie, and what I mean by that is when I find something I enjoy, I get addicted to it, and I go 100%.
Nothing wrong with it.
Right. What I was getting at was if you're a new archer, if you're a new hunter, it's really great that you're listening to our podcast, and it's really great that you're listening to this information. But I'm telling you, if you don't want to psych yourselves out of hunting before you fall in love with it, like Dorge is saying, get yourself a Matthew Z7 Extreme, get yourself a Hunter 300 arrow, and just go have a good time. If you're shooting a bow that isn't super fast and you're shooting a fatter arrow, you can work on yourself and you can become good at your craft. You can become good at your trade. And then at that point, when you want to start fine tuning something, same as if you wanted to go tune the engine for your car after you learned how to drive it. Now you can do it.
I'll share with you a funny story. I used to hunt the Joliet training area in Chicago.
You use what now?
I used to hunt the Joliet Army training area in Chicago.
Okay.
It's in Joliet. In order to hunt there, you need to qualify. That means on July 1st, you need to go there, and then you need to shoot 3 arrows, 20 yards, into a pie plate. If 2 arrow hits the pie plate, you qualify. Okay? The guy with a brand new BMW showed up, take it very calmly, pull his tie, throw his suit right into the back seat, grab his brand new bow case. It's a Matthew, whatever that is. He opened the bow, then he screwed in his viewpoint. And the ranger said, no, broadhead only.
Really?
Yes, you can only shoot with broadheads. So, no problem. He opened a brand new satellite. You can see how long we're talking satellite broadhead. He put 3 together, put in an arrow. Guess what? Not a single arrow.
Not
Hit
one.
a 3x3 target. That's a 20 yard. What did that just tell you?
He failed.
He failed miserably. But he told me, said, what's wrong with this? I've been shooting target at least 10 shots a day for the last 5 days.
Dorge, I gotta be honest with you. I've always been a good shot. I'm not competition worthy. I'm not out here winning tournaments or everything.
Competition is not as difficult as hunting. You know why?
There's not a live target in front of you?
No. A competition, you can wait. You know exactly where the target is. You don't have twist. You don't have to do all of the above. And there's no rushing.
Yes, and there's time between shots and all that.
And the deer the target is not looking at you.
That's right. That's right. But I've always been a good shot. We picked up 22s as kids. I could hit the targets no problem.
Mm-hmm.
I went out to New Hampshire. I was shooting 300 yards, and I know for a lot of people 300 yards isn't far. For me, from New Jersey, I never saw a target farther than 100 yards. So I
Mm-hmm.
go out to New Hampshire. I'm hitting targets at 300. I pick up a bow and I shoot well. Now, what I noticed was as a kid, we used to shoot thunderhead broadheads,
Mm-hmm.
fixed with the interchangeable blades on them, and we would just screw them on. And my uncle would say, as long as they're aligned to the veins, you're good to go. Go hunt. When I tell you, I used to miss deer by 3 feet,
Mm-hmm.
and I used to sit. I was so confused. I would say, what in the world is going on? I shoot so well. Now, granted, there's a little bit of target panic, but missing by 3 feet, I couldn't believe it. And then now fast forward 10 years, now I'm doing all this research. I'm learning all of these things, aerodynamics, broadheads, tuning, and all this stuff. I'm like, no freaking wonder why I couldn't hit anything once I put those veins on the front of the arrow. So
You know
eh,
what I find out? What happened to me? My
was
good
that?
buddy Brian Nabi and his cousin Rick tell me, Dorge, you need to shoot. You need to practice with broadheads. Who need to do that? It's like the same. It's just blades. What's the big deal? So I put a Hoyt chuck on top of my bow. I think this is 35 yards. That's how much fire you want to hit because they come out the cornfield behind you. I aim at the freaking thing, I target, I shot, boom. Because back then, your eyes, you're truly, when I'm 25 years old, my eyes are pretty damn good.
Mm-hmm.
I saw the arrow come the bow, and then I do a big freaking circle like that. And then hit somewhere about 8 feet on the left.
That's incredible. One of the biggest things for me, um, for the listeners, you're going to hear us bring up this research a lot throughout this series. But on the Fire Knock website, top right, there's a tab that says research. Click on it, go down, and there was a study done by
Tony Warden.
Tony Warden. And if you read through it and you listen, or if you look at the data, I'm not going to say the arrow, I'm not going to say the vein type. You can see the research on your own. This particular brand called Tony and said, I know you're doing this project. I want you to test our new veins. And he said, I have no problem testing them for you, but if I test them, no matter what happens, I'm releasing the information. They said, no problem. He had to stop his testing of that particular combination at 50 yards because
Mm-hmm.
the arrow was hitting the dirt. It wasn't even reaching the 60 and 70-yard targets. And for
Mm-hmm.
those of you who didn't hear it on the last one, Tony Warden is a multi-time Canadian archery champion, right? He won in America
Mm-hmm.
also. He used to shoot for Hoyt, so this isn't just some
He's a Hoyt captain in North
yeah.
America.
So this isn't just some guy, doing a project on the weekend. He's a professional shooter. He knows
Exactly.
what he's doing, So again, the big thing about all this, ladies and gentlemen, is we're not trying to push
Mm-hmm.
you to one particular product or thing. If you listen to Dorge talk, he gives credit to everybody. Gold Tip has great arrows. Easton has great arrows the way they make them. I've heard you mention Victory a couple times now. You give credit where credit is due, and each of those arrows has a place for someone
Correct.
as long as their setup calls for it.
Correct. Because
So
it's just like there's no best fishing rod, there's no best arrow, there's no best broadhead. The question is
right,
that what are you going to do with it? In
right,
what condition you believe that you're going to use it?
yep,
Because when you're slightly deviating from that, things start getting bad. I mean, you said general, yes. What do now the question is your general the same as my general?
right,
What
right.
do you mean by general? I mean, just like I was talking to Andy, Andy out of something Illinois.
Mm-hmm.
This time, the general for the customer is 95 yards. That's the shortest they're going to shoot.
Wow,
You know why? Because they're going to shoot them finished.
yeah,
The deer is not going to walk 80 yards in front of any tree. They're going to walk 80 yards in front, 80 or
in
90 yards out in front of the field.
right.
So if you're going to shoot, what are you going to do?
You need something you need something that's effective starting at that distance,
Correct.
not
And
have
then
that
you
be
need
the
to
yeah,
know what you're doing with a vertical ball. And then you need to remember, and then next time, in this time of the year, in something, when you don't have something at least a 10 mile to 15 miles per hour wind,
yeah. I
when
mean,
you
right.
shoot,
Honestly, this year, and I know it's going to sound so silly, and people are going to call me a bitch, but it's okay. there have been so many days that I was going to go hunting this year, and the wind is blowing so hard that like trees are literally going like bending over. On those days, I look at a tree and I'd rather just be sitting at home. There's nothing
No,
enjoyable to
I
me
did that
about.
before. Guess what
It's
happened to me?
Please don't tell me the tree broke.
No, I got seasick.
Oh, see
I was
that.
like, I can't do that. I had to go home. And like,
No, that doesn't happen to me. Just for me, I had a tree stand malfunction on me when I was
really?
younger.
Oh no,
Yeah,
no, no,
so
no.
it was a climbing stand.
Mm-hmm.
Are you familiar with the old amicas from the
Of
80s
course,
and 90s?
I do. Just like I used to hunt vintage point.
Yeah.
So
So
we're talking that era.
I guess I shouldn't say that it was a product malfunction. It was user error. But on the Amica stands, you can adjust both the top and the bottom, but you have to have the bottom pinned to the top. Otherwise, because when you pull the pins and it adjusts, if it's not attached, whatever. So that's what happened. I forgot to attach the bottom platform to the top. I pulled the pins. The bottom shot out, and at the time, I wasn't wearing a harness. Ever since then, I've been terrified of heights. It's just any small little movement in a platform, the platform resets or whatever. So as the years go on, I get a little bit better with it. I get more comfortable in the tree. This year, I didn't really have any issues with feeling like I was too high or anything. It's just a matter of if I look at something and I know I'm going to be uncomfortable when I get up there, I'll either hunt from the ground or I'm going home.
Well, I think
That's
this should conclude our material construction. I mean, we're pushing an hour 20 minutes
Yeah,
already.
no, I agree. And do you think do we have any more do you want to do another episode on carbon
No,
or
actually,
do you
I
want to
pretty
go
much
into
said
the
it all it is because see, I don't expect any listener to understand the construction approach
yeah,
and how when each layer interact. And not to mention, I can only know what I have tested. And if you really want to learn, you need to learn how to find out how other people build carbon arrows. And
right.
just like they are not the same.
Sure.
None of them
So
are.
yep. So guys, basically if you're shooting arrows and let's say, you have a dozen and there's three or four that are kind of acting wonky, maybe giving some thought to how those arrows are made based on your system is something to give some thought
No,
to.
actually, I want to leave it for next episode. We're talking components, and
Okay.
then that's where everything is going to change because see, you can
Components.
make a big difference using components to force arrow to behave.
Okay. So at this point, we've done everything with the background information. We've talked about history of arrows, where carbon came from, how carbon interacts, and now we can start to get into the meat and potatoes of
No, not
what
yet.
it
We're talking about the construction of an arrow.
gotcha. Okay.
Then we'll go
Fantastic.
into each sizes because we need to now because each the reason I want to mention each size because every size arrow
Hmm.
have a whole different approach on component and what is expected on the reaction with each.
Gotcha.
Because components are not the same as size difference.
Okay. So, starting with the next few episodes, we're going to start talking about specific sized arrows and specific components
Yeah,
for
we're
those
going to start
arrows.
with
Perfect.
246.
Okay, start 246 and move on. All right, I love it. Guys, listen, if you enjoy what you're hearing, make sure you go down to the bottom, leave us a review. 5-star written review goes a long way for the channel here. If you have any questions about anything you've heard in the episodes, make sure to reach out to Dorge. That's at Fireknock. What is Fireknock
.com,
LLC?
yes.
Okay.
You go to fireknock.com or contact at fireknock.com. I will always
Okay.
answer emails.
Okay,
All right?
you can email me as well at wingandtail.chris@gmail.com, or you can just scroll down to the bottom of the YouTube video and leave us a comment question there. Either way, I hope you enjoyed the content, and until next time, remember, success is just a commitment away. Have a great day.